Hello, everyone. It is Yo Taylor back here at the Style Table. And this is the At the Style Table show where we talk about things all related to style and living over 50. And one of the things that is happening is the increased number of cases of breast cancer. And during COVID, my guest, Sharen Sierra, had breast cancer during COVID, you guys, and we did this great interview. And it was at the height when everything was just shutting down. So just imagine you get this diagnosis that you have breast cancer and you have to go into the hospital as all of this craziness is happening. You go to the hospital and they're like, okay, we're going to do the surgery. But as soon as we do the surgery, you have to go home. Oh, and by the way, no one can be around you. So you have to basically
Self-care.
convalesce alone. So we did this whole interview and we talked about how she survived this situation with breast cancer, the surgery, and everything with grace and style. Now we're going to talk with Sharen Sierra about everything that she's done since she has gone through this and how she's helping others, her work around advocacy, public policy, and just being an ambassador and helping and supporting women who are going through this. And remember, she's over 50. She's a part of the club. So she's going through all this and she takes care of family and friends and everything. So I want to talk with her. She's going to tell us about what she's doing now and give us tips how you can get information that will best help you, especially seniors who need the financing, right?
Yes.
So welcome to the show, Sharen Sierra.
Well, thank you for having me, Yo Taylor, at the Style Table. Yes, we did I think our show was amazing. And I got a lot of feedback from different folks women and men, who watched and had questions. And you hit on everything perfectly. You were right on target. Everything I went through through COVID. I had my first surgery the day they declared the pandemic, March 11th, 2020. But since then, I am working on my survivor trail, and in my journey, somehow I became a Susan G Komen public policy ambassador. In that role, I did it through COVID. We just did everything virtually. Now we do in-person visits to the state capitol and to DC. So, as a public policy advocate, I am now a leader. I have 5 states where I oversee really amazing individuals, men and women, who advocate within their states for the same issues that I advocate for. It's amazing how much I didn't know that I now know about health equity. Women, we got a long journey because we often are in a sandwich situation at this stage of our lives where we're taking care of parents, aunties, and we're taking care of young kids, nieces, and nephews. And then we volunteer and we have careers. So we are the sandwich generation. Something I learned really during this journey. As you said, I went through this alone, solo, but I have much support from friends and family, including you and Art, who actually had asked if I wanted to convalesce in Maryland, but then COVID happened. So this is the story of how you can turn a negative into a positive and help others. And as it is October, I want to remind everyone that while October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, breast cancer happens every day of the year. So if you have not yet got your breast cancer screening or cervical screening for the year 2024, here's the part about the uninsured and underinsured. Susan G Komen and other organizations work diligently to make sure that our leaders fund health care for women, specifically for early screening, because early screening is the key to survival. This past 2 weeks ago, I was in DC meeting with public policy leaders because Congress and Senate are out. But really, do they do the heavy lifting? It's typically their legislative aides to prepare the information and then submit it to them. And with that, a lot of times I call on volunteers to assist me write letters, postcards, and make phone calls. So as a public policy advocate, I am working on issues related to areas that come to the help that each state's health department. Funds are allocated through our leadership and through the bills and the funding that Congress and Senate agree on. And funding goes to the state health departments, the health departments per state. That money is allocated for engagement, for testing, for transportation. And a lot of times the underinsured or the not insured aren't aware that there is funding. Not always it doesn't stretch as far as we would like, but that's what we do. We continue to ask for more funding and for more research. And with that, you're able to get your mammograms and your cervical screenings. And if you cannot get to one, you should call. You can look for me on digital, Sharen Sierra. Susan G Komen has a patient navigator in every state, which is, you do not know until you're going through something and you need someone to help you navigate the health system. We work as a unified, people always talk about breast cancer awareness. We work as a unified, as a unification, because there's breast cancer awareness and there is public policy. But together, they work together to make sure that women and men have accessibility to funding, testing, outreach, and make sure that their health. Over 351,000 women. Let me make sure of the numbers. And of course, I need my glasses. So, over an estimated 313,510 people in the United States will be diagnosed with breast cancer, and nearly
Wow.
43,000 will die from this disease this year alone. So, you can understand the necessity to get your breast cancer screening. Get your mammogram, ladies. I met a man 2 weeks ago on a walk in Cincinnati. He was a 21-year survivor of breast cancer. So, men do get breast cancer. And
Yeah.
with that, I want to share with Yo Taylor, who's my stylist, that throughout the journey, every appointment that I had, I went dressed as if I was going on a date. I went to my doctors for every appointment. I was determined not to look defeated because I was not. I already knew I was going to survive. Most importantly, I just want to impress that we are the backbone. Women, we nurture everyone, but we need to make sure we nurture ourselves. It's so important because if you're not here, who's going to pick up the slack? And with that, I'm going to say that we need volunteers across the platform. There are so many outreach groups, and all you have to do is like Google your area. There are, if you are in treatment, there are organizations who will take you to the grocery store. They will clean your house. They will bring your groceries. For me, the biggest hurdle was one, not feeling well. I did things that I shouldn't have done because it was COVID. I drove myself. I tried my insurance transportation, but I just didn't feel as if I had a health risk. But you don't have to do that. We're out of COVID. There are major organizations. Um, every health network has a social worker or a patient navigator within the hospital. And again, if you don't have that, you can go on Susan Komen's website and they will direct you. And as far as the volunteering, I had a meeting this past week with a faith-based organization. We have outreach programs for Latinos, African American, seniors. It's all on our website. If you're faith-based, we have programming where you can work within your church and your community. We're looking for ambassadors, both men and women, to help us do the heavy lifting. I have found that most often individuals want to talk to someone who they feel comfortable with. And that might be someone from your community, and that could be you. So I'm going to wrap it up and let Yo ask me some questions because I'm so passionate about assisting folks get the insurance, get their health care, make sure that they have knowledge to go forward on the journey. And for family members to work this journey with the one that might be in treatment. That's all I got right now.
So, you said so many great things, and just having a breast cancer navigator,
Yes.
that's huge. So, for example, my small church, and it is small, there's easily less than 50 people that go to my church. But within that church, because we go to an Episcopal church, many of the people are older, they're seniors. There were three women in our church, well up beyond in their 60s and 70s, who ended up with breast cancer. Now they're
Yes.
all three survivors. Actually, there's four women. Four women, I would say upper 50s and up, who are breast cancer survivors. So it doesn't have to be something where you feel like it's over for you because you're older. There's a lot of support, but when you talk about faith-based organizations, yes, go, ask questions through Susan G Komen, and ask if your church or however you worship, your house of worship, if there's an advocate or somebody that they can connect you with. I'm sure the Episcopal church has
It's
probably
interesting you
connected.
should say that. I carry these pink folders almost everywhere I go. They're like my phone. And within the
Yeah,
folders, I keep information because you never know when you're going to meet someone. And it's like you said, and typically faith-based organizations do have a health equity aspect to their worship. And if you're watching this and you belong to a faith-based organization and you want to be that point person,
right.
all the information's on our website. It's on the website. We're
And that's
digital
where
first.
your synagogues, your
Yeah.
mosque, wherever you worship, there is a place for you to go. You
Yes.
can get assistance through that. I'm sure if you go to Susan G Komen, you look up breast cancer navigator. That's huge. That's
It's
because
very, yeah,
you're
that's really
already,
huge.
yeah.
That's
And when
really
you're a
huge.
senior, you might be alone. For seniors for those of us who are older, you're retired, and if you're alone, man, having someone to help you go through the process and where you can ask questions, give you hope and encouragement and things like that is tremendous. I
It is
can't.
tremendous. It is very
And when I
tremendous.
think about your situation, oh my gosh,
I didn't have any of that.
during
I,
yeah, you could, but you couldn't. Think about it, you couldn't have anybody in your house with you.
no, I did
You
not.
because your immune system was down and we were still trying to figure out what this whole COVID thing was.
Yes, it
They
was.
had to get you
Yeah,
out of there because they had to get the beds ready for COVID patients.
yeah. The one thing, and I say this humbly, when I woke up, March 11th, actually it was after midnight, and I wondered where my family was, and I only told a small portion of people that I had breast cancer. I was just raised that way, but I was like, where my people's at? And my nurse said, Miss King, um, there's a pandemic, and we just sent everyone home. I kind of looked around like in disbelief, but then I thought, "Ooh, I got a suite." I was like, I know my insurance is not paying for this suite, but I was very blessed at the hospital. UC Health, my surgeon was the head of plastic surgery, so they scooted me into this beautiful suite. But I remember saying, well, and I read it to my nurse, Greg, I think his name was, "Where's my family? And if it's a pandemic, did Jesus come back? Is there locusts?" And he's like, "No." But it was the journey. And Yo is correct. I literally, my niece and nephew who were living with me had to go home. It was more than I thought I could handle, but I had my faith. And since God told me I wasn't going to die, I wasn't really worried. And I had my two dogs, Josh and Walter, and we just did things outdoors. We drove to retreats like 2 hours away. And I learned how to walk again. I had 5 surgeries total. And it was a journey, but on that other side of the journey, now I feel just so immensely proud that I don't know who signed me up to be an ambassador. One day I got an email that said, "Oh, you want to be an ambassador? This is what you do." And I thought, well, I'm sitting at home anyway. And it became such a huge part of my life that I feel incredibly honored. So I want to say, out of what you think is negative, a lot of positive can happen if you stay the course. You just have to stay the course. Um, if you have faith, follow your doctrines. If you don't have faith, believe in yourself and make sure that you choose healthcare that sees you as an individual. Make sure that your healthcare provider sees you. And if you don't feel comfortable with your healthcare provider, then please, please voice your opinion. And there's going to be
And
someone
go
that
to
listens to you.
right, go to someone else. You have to advocate for your own health. If you feel you know your body, like
Yes.
in your situation, you knew your body, and the one doctor was telling you one thing, and you said,
Yeah.
no. So
Yeah.
if you feel it, don't wait.
Don't wait.
Just jump on it. Like my sister is a breast cancer survivor.
She
She
is.
never got tested. She found because she did do at least self examinations. If you haven't had a mammogram and you haven't gone to do one, at least do your self
Yes.
examinations. Just think about it. If you're a senior and you live alone and you have this diagnosis, to have access to find out your breast cancer navigator can be through whether it's a church, whether it's a synagogue or mosque, wherever you worship, you can get that information.
He has a good role for an ambassador.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, to help you figure all of this out, to give you the emotional support, and also, who and where the best doctors are. Some place where you can get all the information, where you feel safe, and if you can do it through the place where you worship, because for many people, if they're living alone,
Yes.
that church or synagogue or mosque, that's your
Oscar
family, that's your family. And
is,
so it's nice to have that support. And with the help with Susan G. Komen, that's amazing.
yeah, Susan G. Komen. I mean, in just the short, the Public Policy Office wasn't formed until 2018. And of course, it was thwarted by the pandemic, but it never stopped doing the work ever between seeking funding, expanding the patient navigation program. Now there are universities who actually have patient navigation certifications and degrees. So that's going to help our aging community, of which you're all a part of. Things
Right.
are just spinning on axis, and we're looking for and working towards a more health equity community globally. And having someone who knows that most hospitals have always had a financial navigator because they want to make sure they get paid. But now hospitals, the American Cancer Society, breastcancer.org, there are so many organizations who are getting in the process because women, we are the backbone. And anyone is not just anymore about the genetics of, oh, my family has a predisposition. My family had no predisposition, but there's so many factors, and we've talked about this. It's what you put into your body, it's what we breathe in the air, it's what we wear on our bodies. There's so many toxins, um, and our ecosystem. Stress is a high factor for
Wow.
bringing on all kinds of illness, specifically breast cancer. It used to say, as we were growing up, oh, over 40, genetically inclined. Have you had your diagnostic? Now, I'm going to read this to you because I want to make sure I say it accurate. Okay? Get the facts about breast cancer. The most common risk factor for breast cancer, being born female and getting older.
Wow. But
Yeah.
there's also a lot of young people who are getting an increased
Yes.
number of young
Specifically,
people.
African American young women between the ages of 25 and 40. I've known someone to be as young, to be in their teens and get breast cancer. But so let's talk about our culture. When I first started my journey, I occasionally saw a young, like teen, like college age student, but triple negative is one of the largest killers of breast cancer, and it happens to African American women between the ages of 25 and 40. There is no cure. There is no cure. So, yeah, so as you mentioned, do your self exam, and you don't start at 40. You literally have to teach your teens, your nieces, your daughters to start their self exam in their teen years. And
Yeah,
if they
'cause
start in, uh,
no, because even if you don't get your mammogram, like my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer. It did, my sister and I were discussing. To our knowledge,
right,
no one had breast cancer.
right. That's a really, I'm going to pounce on that because that's a really big factor. When I go
Right.
out and speak,
Yeah.
I tell people get your health records and sit down with Nana, grandma, auntie, and ask them to tell the truth because
Or if they even if because really don't know because maybe a loved one died from something else, but maybe they also had breast cancer. Who knows? You don't really know
yeah.
100% of the information. So you're just going on basically just some information.
What
You don't
about
have
when people say, "Oh, they have the C"? I used to hear that as a youth, and and anyone that died, my family's from the South, as is yours, and it would be like, "Oh, well, maybe they have the big C," because people died, and no one really, there were no autopsies.
right.
Auntie Elma died, and she
Yeah,
could have had breast cancer, and oftentimes there was no insurance, and
right.
the family doctor was the grandmama who could like give you some cough syrup and some cod liver oil and send you on your way. So it's
Yeah.
what you're saying, like your sister and like
Yeah.
me.
But she found her own from doing self-examination. Now, I will say I'm guilty. I don't do it as often as I should, but she found her own at
Right.
45, and she had never gotten,
A
she never
mammogram.
did mammogram. So for 5 years, she went without a mammogram. Fortunately, she caught her own early enough
Right.
where she didn't have to go through chemo or have a mastectomy.
Radiation. Right.
Right. So she was able to, go through radiation treatment. But this is such a
Prevalent.
it's a prevalent and invasive cancer, but at the same time, it's so survivable. It's
It is.
survivable. It's survivable. The ladies at my church, they're late 60s, 70s,
Yes,
who
it is
survived
survivable.
breast cancer. And you guys also, what I learned that there are like ways to save your hair with these cooling. This thing is called a cooling cap.
Killing cap, yes.
Yeah, it helped to save my reverend's hair because of this new technology. So
There's so much research being done. Yeah.
there is, and there's so much information that it's worth
Readily
investigating.
available.
Yeah,
Readily available. And
through
we
Breast
do a deep
Cancer
dive.
Navigator, like
We
you
do
said.
a deep dive on a lot of things in our lives that we probably should not be doing a deep dive on. A lot of time wasted on digital. Yet our health is our wealth. And I don't mean to sound trite, but our health is a wealth. And just as you were saying, there is information out there. And I want to say this too. Breast cancer is survivable. But I have a senior in my life who's an ambassador. She's had breast cancer 5 times and she's in her mid 70s. But there's so many new treatments. And she has an amazing United Healthcare force with her. They know her, she has doctors, they bring in treatments. It's important to be involved with the process. And she'll examine it, she'll look at it, she'll ask her other doctor, what do you think about this? You have to be your own advocate. And she's
Yeah,
never lost her hair. She has beautiful, striking gray hair. So a lot of the things that we thought were are not. And a lot of the things we thought would never happen. The research is being done by the National Institute of Health and others globally. The one thing that I have found that folks that are researching breast cancer and cervical cancer, they share their information. There's no glory in saying, I found it. No, we found it. We found another obstacle. We broke through the diagnostic. It's really a global united force because I watch Sky News and I watch national global news. And then I will like talk to my doctor. Oh, yes, we're on top of that. The other thing is, if you have a doctor that you can't talk to, it's time
yeah,
for you to change your doctor. I mean,
yeah, yeah. For
who doesn't
anything,
for anything,
you can't
anything.
just you also know your body and you know when something's wrong. If you question anything, and I'm a caregiver of my dad, if there's something that you feel like you're not really comfortable with and you feel like I'm just not, I don't like this response, I don't
That
feel like
is
I'm
the
being listened to,
I
then get another doctor.
get another
Get
doctor.
another
Get
doctor.
another doctor. Change your
Don't
health
wait.
care.
Yeah, don't wait. I mean, we were talking about your situation. You had this doctor that you felt like wasn't listening to you. You waited a few months, and maybe had
Yeah,
you moved sooner,
yeah, very
you
true.
know,
He poo
you
pooed me. He poo pooed me, and I'm like, "Mm." And then and this is the other thing. Yes, use Google for information, but don't use Google for a diagnosis.
right. Doctors hate that, by the way, you guys. They hate when you go to Google.
Do
You go to
not use
Doctor
Google as your,
Google.
do not use Google as your diagnostic
Yes,
healthcare facilitator. And that was the first thing my doctor said to me, my surgical doctor. She said, do yourself a favor. Do not Google. I'm here for you. We have researchers. And my mom was in the healthcare industry, and she used to say that. And we didn't have Google. She used to say, don't listen to anyone but your competent doctor. And I was very blessed. I changed healthcare facilities, networks. I did. I changed healthcare networks. Ooh, and when I did, I Googled my doctor. And I found out things I wish I had known. But
right.
all kidding aside, you know, and I know that there's a lot of factors to our health, and a lot of it has to do with our diet. And with an African American community, we've been negligent on our own sides for our diet, and for generations, it started with the food that was the leftovers that were given to us. We didn't have access to anything but the remains of parts of animals. But as we know better, we should do better. And
There's so many reasons why
the toxins are
the
everywhere.
forever chemicals, all kinds
Mhm.
of things, and they're still doing research and studies as to why people who don't have breast cancer run in their family, so
Right.
to
Well,
speak,
right.
and people end up with breast cancer.
But
So
and a lot of it, as you mentioned earlier, do we really know our health history? I
yeah,
know my father's side. That's the other thing. Um, my my paternal grandmother died relatively young from what I was told, and I actually asked my dad, Earl, Did my grandmother have cancer? Oh, I don't know. And then at his funeral, most people were like, "Oh, how you doing?" And I was asking his siblings, "Did she have cancer?" And his brother said, "I don't know. One day she was there, and the next day she was sick."
Yeah, so we really don't know our histories so much if you're depending on someone who was really documenting everybody in your
Right.
family. But for the most part, many of us, especially if you came from a family with modest means, you don't know. They did not have money to go to doctors and all of
Nope.
that.
I just want to give a couple breast cancer risk factors, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I
Uh,
want you to give that, but I want you to tell us where we can get in contact with you, how we can and how we can get resources.
so I told you the number one risk factors: be born a woman and age, race and ethnicity, your family history,
Need
uh,
one.
alcohol
Hmm.
is a real increased risk for breast cancer.
Wow.
Wearing a bra does not cause breast cancer. I've had people ask me that. There are common myths about what causes breast cancer, and for that, please check Komen.org for safe, accurate, and current breast cancer information because they're updating their website all the time. Komen is this after the federal government. They, I think, are the second highest funder to the National Health Institute. Uh, Resources online, your breast cancer screening and follow up tests. Make sure just because you get your mammogram, you need to follow up. You need to get your test. I always say, now I say, get a copy of your health records every year. Some places they charge you maybe $20, but keep your records. It's so important because when I got my records, they had me down as a white woman. And I've been going to that facility. Yes. I've been going to, I was like, I've been going there for 4 years. And no one, I went twice a year for different things, right? No one noticed I wasn't white. I don't know. Your breast density is really important. And it
Yeah,
used
I
to
was gonna ask
say
about that.
that dense breast. Not everybody has dense breast, but they do have new screening techniques for that. Self awareness. We know genetic and breast cancer, hormonal treatments affect breast cancer. Healthy living, which is diet, exercise, mental as well. You all, we live in a very stressful society, especially women. We carry a lot. You have to have your serenity. There is so much illness linked to stress. I mean, not just heart disease. So make sure that you are living a well rounded, healthy life as best you can. And questions to ask your doctor. If you have breast density, make sure that they are testing you for breast
Mhm.
density and not just a normal mammogram. A woman's risk for breast cancer is higher with everything I just said: unhealthy diet, not exercising, alcohol, stress. All of those can lead to not just breast cancer, but other diseases that may take you out of here. So if you want to contact me, I'm really easy to find. It's Sharen Sierra, and I'm sure Yolanda will put this in the link. I do a lot of public speaking. I travel. And if you need me, or if you just need the information, again, Komen.org. If you want to become an ambassador, that's on there. If you want information that you can download as a template for your faith based church, if you're Latino and you want something that's Spanish speaking, you can download that. If you're a faith where women tend to be guarded, that's on there. If you want something for seniors, that's on Komen.org. But there are also great organizations. If you want to volunteer, you can become an ambassador. If you want to volunteer to drive, help shop, take them to the doctor, there are health organizations dedicated to breast cancer in almost every community I've ever been to. And all you have to do is put in breast cancer and put in volunteer, put your zip code in or your city, and you'd be surprised at how many organizations need your help.
And if you said also that if you're a senior, there are resources. So if you think, oh, I can't, I'm older, I don't need to worry about it, or I can't really
No,
afford the mammogram. And for example, I have dense breast, and so that requires an additional screening.
additional
I
screening.
do, I do have health care that
If
will
you
pay for it. But if you're on a fixed income,
there, you go
you
to
need that.
Komen.org. Go to Komen.org, and there's grants that we have, and but every community has that's under the State Department. I said that again. Under the
Health department.
Department of Health in every state
We
allocates
were
funding.
politically. I'm
I
surprised it
know,
isn't being
I know, allocates
regulated by
funds.
the. We won't. Let's not put that in the atmosphere.
Okay, so I'm going to say that. So if you're looking for funding, you can go on Komen.org, and there's resources there to direct you towards funding. And as we said earlier, Yo and I, that each state has a health department, and funds are allocated through the national budget. Now, yes, do those funds sometimes run out? Yes, they do, which is why I go to DC and others several times a year to continually suggest strongly to Congress and Senate to continue to fund our departments of health via state because the funds are there. We just have to make sure that they see us, continue to see us. Currently, we're asking for additional funding for national breast cancer and cervical screening. I was just in DC 2 weeks ago meeting with the public policy advocates, the legislative aides, and they prepare everything and they present. Now, I will say that I need some letter writers and I need some people who will make some calls to your local, state, and federal officials. You can help me help you by participating as a volunteer. You may not want to be an ambassador, but you want to make sure that your community. So again, if you're underinsured or have no insurance, Komen.org, Komen.org. And there are other resources, and there are a lot of hospitals who have financial assistance. I went to UC Health in Cincinnati, and they were a teaching hospital, and we have a lot of philanthropic funds that come through there. So you need to advocate for yourself. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, again, Komen.org, and someone will help you without question. And there are other organizations. Put in breast cancer, put in your zip code, put in need financing, just put in some keywords and you'd be surprised at what populates.
Thank you so much, Sharen. This was a great talk, information. You know, every time you think you've learned everything that you need to know about breast cancer, what to do, where to go, there's still so much more that you're learning as there's more research done and more advocacy and more government resources and hospital resources and nonprofit organizations. And Susan G Komen is your top resource.
Yeah, as a leader, definitely.
A leader in information. You can go to your churches and synagogues and mosques. You can go to your houses, whatever your house of worship is. You could probably find information that way. So that is, and with that, we're going to wrap up the show. If you need any more information, Sharen is going to leave everything in the comments below with links. We'll have all that information for you guys. I appreciate you joining in. I just want to remind people that you are not alone. There are people here that can help you. And please still do your self exams.
Yes.
You know, even if you can't get to that mammogram, do your self exams. Make sure you advocate for yourself and get your keep a copy of your records.
Yes. Every year.
Every year. And if you feel uncomfortable with your doctor and you feel like you're not getting the information or you're really not getting help, use your intuition, move on to the next doctor. Do not wait, because cancer doesn't wait on anybody else. It does not wait. So you can't wait. And don't let money and resources stop you. Because there's resources out there for you. So that's what I have for you guys. Thank you for tuning in to the At the Style Table show. This show airs once a month, where I will be talking with guests about style and living and things that help us over 50.
Yes, topical topics for sure.
That's right.
Thank you, Taylor, for having me. I feel so incredibly blessed.
Thank you. And of course, you know, I appreciate all the information, and I'm going to also put a link in the comments for our interview when she talks about her journey and her experience going through breast cancer during COVID, and watch that show. It's a very good show and very inspiring. So we will see you next time on At the Style Table. Bye, you guys.